the smell of cigarettes everywhere, and the noise of the barges hooting on the Thames, and all the people walking across the bridge. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, bowler hats and umbrellas, pinstripe suits, black caps. Mummy, why aren't there any ladies walking across the bridge? I thought that you used to work in the city. Yes, Denise, dearie, I did, but I had to leave on marriage. That was the rule in 1950. Well, I think that's a stupid rule, Mummy. 10 years later, I'm in my headmistress's study. I went to a girls' school in Surrey, quite near here. Here's my headmistress, Miss Beale, with her helmet hair and her support stockings. Denise, what's this form? You're applying to the London School of Economics? I can't allow that. That's unladylike. But Miss Beale, you know I've always wanted to be an accountant. No girl from this school has ever been an accountant. How could you even mention such a thing? I'm going to rip this form up now, and you must go out and fill a new form in. Well, Miss Beale, that's a stupid rule. And take an extra detention, Denise, for that cheek. And so I went to university and I read science like a good girl from Surrey Grammar School that I was. But I had a bit of luck because in the 1970s legislation was passed, equal opportunities, and the city could no longer exclude me. And if you'd been with me in 1972 in the careers office of the University of Durham, there's a very nice looking man with pinstripe suit and highly polished shoes. Mr. Potter? Oh, could you please show me the candidate? Mr. Potter, I am the candidate. Oh, good gracious. You don't mean to tell me that we're admitting ladies to the profession. And on the 8th of September 1975, I was one of 8 ladies and 200 men who joined Deloitte & Co, chartered accountants in the City of London. 4 years later, I was qualified, and I went back to see Mr. Potter again. Well, Mr. Potter, now I'm qualified. Oh, I'm so sorry, Denise. You don't promote the ladies. But I want to say one thing to you. I have a daughter who's 16 years old, and I've been telling her all about you. And I want to say to you, congratulations on all the struggles you've had, and very good luck in the future, and I'll be a referee for you. Thank you, Mr. Potter. So I left and I took a job, and I was running an accounts department. I was actually quite well paid. But you know what? The guys all had flats that they owned. But every time I went to the bank, oh, we don't give mortgages to the ladies. After all, you're a pretty little thing. You'll get married, won't you? And then comes a letter, and it's from my sister, Pamela. No internet in those days. Dear Denise, I've passed my first year at the University of Cambridge. That's the good news. But the bad news is I don't have a place in Hall. I don't suppose you could help me to buy a flat, could you, or a house? Oh. But before you get upset, Denise, guess what? There's a man up here in Cambridge who's championing in the women. Half an hour later, I'm headed for Liverpool Street Station, and I'm on my way to Cambridge to meet Peter Saw, who had discovered, he was a broker, that the Leeds Permanent Building Society was willing to lend to ladies. But I've never been to Leeds, I said. You can see how little I knew about mortgages. And there it was that my sister and I joint venturing, purchased one of these houses. It's a terrace, number 14 Belmore Close, in Cambridge, with a mortgage from the Leeds Permanent Building Society. But of course it was really my aim to get a flat in London. And I kept going. Every time I had a day off work, I'd go to banks and try to find all the building societies then were coming in to try to find some money to buy my own flat. But again, I had a bit of luck. Right to buy legislation in 1980 came for council tenants. Now, I wasn't a council tenant, but I did let my flat from a charitable housing association. And there was a particular piece of legislation dated 1984 which permitted tenants of charitable housing associations, we couldn't buy our flats because the charity owned it, but we could get a transferable discount to buy another property. Very complicated, but I thought, well, since I was the first woman in the city in accountancy, I'm going to be the first person to get the right to buy under the 1984 Act. Now, the banks could still refuse me, quite legally, a mortgage because I was a lady, but they couldn't refuse me under the right to buy. So, in 1985, I bought the ground floor of one of these houses in Finsbury Park. And on the front page of the Evening News, the very day I completed, the 3rd of February 1986, there was a shooting on the street corner. And a number of people said to me, you know, I think maybe this was a bit of a mistake. You've overstretched yourself this time, Denise. But I toughed it out, and I in fact lived there for about a year and a half, and then my sister announced that she'd completed her degree and she was going to come down to London. She had a job at London University, as a university lecturer, and would I be interested in us having a house together? So we sold a house in Cambridge and bought a house in North London, fairly near to my flat, and I managed to hold on to my flat and rent it. Now I know that today the phrase is accidental, but I can assure you there was nothing accidental about me wanting to continue to rent my flat, because even back in those days I could see that it was going to be a great proposition. So my sister and I bought a house just around the corner from this, in fact, and then about 2 years later, I think it was, the man upstairs on the first floor of the house told me, Denise, I'm taking a job in Leicester, and I don't know what to do with my flat. And I said to him, oh, Tony, I'll buy your flat. The price was £45,000. I didn't even have £45. I was walking to work and back again to save the bus fare. That was my financial situation. But I was so determined. And I got myself a broker, what we now would call an independent financial advisor, but I don't think the term was around then. The name of Mark, public school boy, very useful. And one day he came to me and said, you know, Denise, he said, I've just come from Barclays Bank, and there was a young man ahead of you, and he was 3 years younger than you. Not only did he get a mortgage, but they offered him a loan to buy a car. That's so unfair. I said, tell me about it, Mark. Now let me ask you a question. If you, let's get into stereotypes here for a moment, not that we weren't thinking of it, but anyway. If you think about a man and a car, what might you think of a lady in association with? Be super stereotyped.
Shoes.
Okay, shoes are not going to buy a flat. In the house. If the man,
No.
thank you, a kitchen. And one thing I have discovered is that if you take a loan from a bank, close your ears here, if you take a loan from a bank, they never come around and check to see what you've spent the money on. So that year, I had 3 kitchens. I went to the bank, I said, I need a new kitchen on my ground floor flat. Oh, madam, a kitchen! How much would you like to borrow? And then I went to another bank and I said, well, I've just bought a house with my sister and I'd like a new kitchen. Oh, madam, a kitchen! And so on. So I had 3 loans for a kitchen. I felt a bit guilty, but I felt pretty annoyed. Trust me, I was irritated.
Did you at least buy one kitchen?
No.
Theo, you're not listening to this.
No.
It's a shot.
I needed £45,000 to buy that flat. That still wasn't enough, so I borrowed £10,000 off my mum, second joint venture. And I bought that flat. And at that point, I really was down to my last tin of baked beans. And it was just around the time when the buy-to-let mortgages were coming out, and there was a company called Mortgage Express. So I applied, because I love to be the first. And when I saw the fee structure, I had to lie down in a darkened room. So at that point I decided, you know what, I'm going to stay my own way, hustling. I'm going to just keep going the way I'm doing it. So I had put a tenant in, luckily. And for a very long time, both of the flats together, the ground floor and the first floor, gave me enough money. That after about 8 or 9 years, I became, to use Kiyosaki's term, financially free, meaning I had my costs covered. In fact, that's probably the problem and why I came to debt so late, because I had actually paid off my debts by a sheer combination of using all the rent money and extreme hard work to do that. Financial freedom. But, I don't know if you've heard the phrase, you cannot eat your house. I needed cash flow. Remember the Leeds Permanent Building Society? My sister said, you know what, let's have a look at Leeds. And so we went up to look in Leeds. And we both of us now have a number of small houses in Leeds, simply for the purpose of generating cash flow. I came very late to the mortgage party, and by the time I came, of course, I hit the top of the bulge. And I'm not proud of myself, but there you are. So I invested with a couple of developers, and I lost nearly all my money. A year later came the financial crash, and I lost my publishing and training business, because when hundreds of thousands of people are losing their job and walking out of the city, they're not thinking about hiring a training consultant. So I asked my sister, what should we do? And she said, well, we do have the option to sit as two little old ladies and let the house fall down around us. And I said, no, we don't. So very sadly, we sold our house in North London, and we split it in two financially, and that's how I ended up down, almost back, because I'm actually from Purley. It's not quite the same place, but nearly back where I started, if you like. Much older and wiser, but still a rebel when it comes to doing things the proper way. So we rocked up on the Sahara Estate, which is a London County Council estate, which most people spend their life trying to get out of. So we came in, and the reason we chose it is because Right to Buy came quite late to that estate. Not that the legislation was late, but people didn't have the money to buy. So most people hadn't altered the property, so the property was in good condition. That's what I want, you see. I don't like things that have been tampered with. So I was able to buy a house for myself, which is now extended, a house for my sister, and I have actually 3 flats. And in fact, in the last 4 years, I have, you'll be happy to hear, Theo, I have finally embraced mortgage debt, but not too much. And I played exactly the same little game here. I bought the ground floor, this is a maisonette, and then I bought the upstairs by chatting up the guy in the street and that kind of thing, you know, just private sales. I do now have some mortgage debt, and my plan for dealing with the Chancellor's changes is, remember that Finsbury Park property I showed you? On Friday just gone, I put one of those flats up for sale. But I'm not allowed to sell to you because Marcus told me no selling. But here's the thing, that's going to be bought tonight by one of my former tenants. So wherever you are and whoever you are with, there's somebody who can help you. and you can help somebody else. Now, what I'm doing now is I launched Cashew Global. It's just an education program. It's just getting going on the web. It'll be on the web this year, sometime during 2016. And this is really for my young students, for my graduate students, because I'm really concerned that young people are coming out. You've heard my story, so at least I've got a story to tell. I managed to do it. You know, I have a 7-figure property portfolio, 6-figure income. I've managed to do that with all the difficulties I faced. And my young students are graduating, they're very highly qualified, and they're telling me, we can't buy property, we can't get on the ladder. Well, that's nonsense. If I could do it when it's impossible to get a mortgage, it's got to be possible for my young people. So I'm launching this program, just starting it. I've done a little bit of work on it. And one of the things I'm doing is I'm launched Rewarding Returns Restorer. So this is for people who want to get more money, a better return on their cash, introducing them to developers who want to borrow money. So that's essentially it. So my message to you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is wherever you are, there's somebody you're going to be working with. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I had to learn the lesson to get a team, to help other people, to ask for help. That was a big lesson for me because I love doing it myself. That doesn't work anymore. We have to ask for help. We have to look for people to help us. They're right here in this room. So thank you very much and welcome to the Hampton Kingston Property Society.